So I want to ask you something, and I want you to sit with it for a moment before you answer. When was the last time that you said yes to something, you agreed to something, something happened, and the moment after you said you agreed to it, it felt like a quiet sinking in your chest, not like a dramatic alarm, not loud regret, just a small familiar that wasn't actually okay with me. Maybe it was a conversation that you had tolerated. Maybe it was a behavior that you had let slide, a standard that you quietly moved for someone else's comfort, an expectation that you lowered because phrasing it felt like too much. And then you just moved on because that's what you do. You adapt, you accommodate, you manage, and you're exceptional at it. Here is what I want to talk to you about today. So every time you move your standard, every time you let slide what you said mattered, accept what you wouldn't, tolerate what you promised yourself you never would, you pay a cost. Not always immediately, not always visibly, but the cost is real, and it is daily. And for high achieving women, that compounds in ways that show up in many other places in our lives. So today, we're talking about standards, what they are, why we have slowly let some of ours erode, and what that erosion is actually costing, and how to rebuild them not from a place of rigidity, from a place of deep, grounded self-respect. So stay with me. This one, it matters, and it's very important. So welcome. I'm Stephanie, and this channel is built for one woman, the high-achieving woman who has built a life that looks extraordinary from the outside and is quietly exhausted on the inside. We talk about clarity, we talk about alignment, we talk about the gap between the woman you are and the woman that you are currently presenting to the world, and how to close that gap. So today's topic is one that I have been sitting with for a long time, because one of the most misunderstood concepts in the conversation around high-performing women, standards. Not standards as a rigid rule book, not standards as a list of demands, standards as the quiet expression of how much you value yourself and what you will and will not accept in your life, your relationships, your work, and your own behavior. So here is what we are covering: what standards actually are and why they matter more than most people think. The research behind what happens to high achievers who lower their standards. A story of how standards erode quietly, gradually, and almost invisibly. The real cost, what you are losing every day when you operate below your own bar. And the beliefs that allow you to raise them without guilt. And a practical path forward, what this actually looks like in real life. So let's get into it. When most people hear the word standards, they think of something or someone demanding, difficult, or hard to please. They think of a woman who is too particular, too rigid, too high maintenance. See, this is one of the most damaging misunderstandings in our culture. It is applied almost exclusively to women. Here is what standards actually are. Standards are the minimum that you will accept as normal. That's it. Standards are the minimum that you will accept as normal. They are not ceilings. They are not aspirations. They are floors. The lowest level of treatment, behavior, quality, or engagement that you are willing to call acceptable in your life. Every person, they have standards, whether they have named them or not. The question is, never do you have them. The question is, are you serving you or are they costing you? Here is why this matters for you specifically. You are a high achieving woman. You have spent your life building capacity, your ability to do more, carry more, manage more, handle more. You are extraordinarily competent. And that competence has made you very, very good at tolerating things that you should not be tolerating. Just because you can handle it, because you can adapt, because you find a way, you are resourceful. Here's the thing that no one tells capable women. Your ability to handle something is not a signal that you should handle it. Just because you can absorb bad behavior does not mean that it's not damaging you. Just because you can work in chaos does not mean that chaos is not costing you. Just because you can tolerate less than you deserve does not mean the tolerance is neutral. It is not neutral. It is the slow erosion of your self-trust, your clarity, and your leadership capacity. And it starts with the standards that you allow yourself to have. Now, I know some of you are watching this and thinking, I need to actually do this. I need the system installed, not just understood. And if that's you, there's something I want to show you. This is an executive framework, and it is called the Cognitive Clarity Reset. It is a 7-day executive framework that instills a wardrobe system designed to protect your focus. So here's what happens. Day 1, you inventory. You categorize what's actually working and what's creating friction. Day 2, you eliminate. You remove what's competing for your mental energy. Day 3, you structure. Order reduces cognitive drag. Day 4, build your core. Architecture, not accumulation. Day 5, you systemize 5 go-to combinations that require 0 negotiation. Day 6, you align. You wear clarity and you notice how it changes your presence. By day 7, you have installed a wardrobe system that works like a pre-decided decision. No more friction, just clarity. It's $47. Here's the thing. This is only for you if you are ready to actually build it. If you want the system installed in 7 days, the Cognitive Clarity Reset is how you do it. You can grab it below. The link is in the description. Now, where were we? So I want to give you some data here, because for a woman like you, understanding the why is not optional. It's essential. Finding number 1, self-respect and achievement. Researchers in the field of self-determination theory, including Deci and Ryan, have consistently found that self-respect, which standards are a direct expression of, is not just emotionally beneficial. So it is functionally necessary for sustained high performance. Studies show that individuals with high self-respect demonstrate greater persistence, higher intrinsic motivation, and more effective decision-making under pressure. The mechanism is straightforward. So when you believe you are worth protecting, you make choices that protect you. When you do not, you make choices that compromise you, even without consciously realizing that it is compromising you. The second one that I found is the Tolerance Performance Link. A landmark study from the American Psychological Association found that chronic tolerance of substandard treatment in personal and professional relationships is a primary driver of what researchers call quiet depletion. This is distinct from burnout. Burnout is high-intensity exhaustion. Quiet depletion is the low-grade, consistent drain of operating in environments and relationships that cost more than they return. It's like a leaky faucet. That tiny, quiet depletion does not announce itself. It shows up as reduced creativity, slower decision-making, difficulty feeling fully present, and a growing sense that something is off without being able to name what it is. For high-achieving women, this is an epidemic. Standards or lack of them are at the root. Finding number 3 is the boundary success correlation. Researchers published in the Journal of Applied Psychology found a significant positive correlation between women who reported clear personal and professional boundaries, which are the behavioral expression of standards, and their ratings of leadership effectiveness, job satisfaction, and long-term career trajectory. In essence, women with strong, clearly communicated standards were rated higher in executive presence, trusted more by their teams, and reported significantly lower levels of chronic stress. The conclusion the researchers drew was pretty direct. Standards are not a barrier to relationship and professional success. They are a driver of it. So finding number 4, the compound effect of small compromises. Behavioral economist Dan Ariely's research on decision-making and moral licensing shows that small compromises, the individual moments where you accept slightly less than your standard, compound rapidly. Each small deviation from your own bar makes the next one slightly easier to justify. But over time, what began as a minor accommodation becomes the new normal. He called this the slippery slope of standards, and it is not metaphorical. It is a measurable neurological reality. Your brain adapts to what you consistently accept. It begins to register the compromise standard as the default. So this is why women often reach a point where they look at their lives, their relationships, their work, their mornings, their sense of self, feel a profound disconnection. Not from one dramatic decision, from thousands of small ones that compound every single day. I want to share a story with you. A real story told publicly by the woman herself, because I think it is the most honest illustration of what happens when high-achieving women stop enforcing their own standards. So you may know the name Arianna Huffington, co-founder of the Huffington Post, one of the Time magazine's 100 most influential people, by every external measure, one of the most accomplished women in media. So in 2007, 2 years into building the Huffington Post, Arianna was working 18-hour days. She was raising 2 teenage daughters as a single mother. She was fielding calls. She was running a media empire, traveling between speaking engagements and interviews, doing what high-achieving women do. Everything, all at once, without a pause. And she had accepted all of it as just the price of success. And she said later that she had bought into what she called the collective delusion. It was the belief that in order to be extraordinary, you had to accept the erosion of everything else. Sleep, rest, recovery, the standard that she held for her own care. All of it quietly moved in service of the work. And one morning in April 2007, Arianna, she collapsed at her desk from exhaustion. She hit her head, she broke her cheekbone, she woke up in a pool of blood. She told this story herself dozens of times, including in her books, Thrive and the Sleep Revolution, and interviews with publications from Bloomberg to NBC News. And she called it her wake-up call. Weeks of medical tests, doctors came back with a diagnosis that was both simple and also devastating. She was exhausted, not sick, not injured beyond the fall, just completely, chronically, systematically depleted. So here is what Arianna said about it in her own words. I had bought into this delusion that in order to succeed, I had to accept burnout as the price I had to pay. But then, more importantly, she had said, I ended up collapsing, and that was the beginning of me recognizing that burnout was not just a personal problem. It was a global epidemic. She walked away from the Huffington Post in 2016 to find Thrive Global, a company built entirely around ending the burnout epidemic she had personally lived. Now, here is what I want you to notice about Arianna's story. It did not happen all at once. There was no single moment where she made a dramatic choice to abandon her standards for rest, for health, for her own care. There was no slow, reasonable, justified series of adjustments. Each one made the service of something important: the daughters, the company, the mission, each small enough not to alarm her. Until the accumulation of all those things, all those small adjustments, sent her to the floor. This is what standard erosion looks like in high-achieving women's lives. Not a single betrayal of yourself, just 1,000 reasonable ones. And what Ariana built after, what became Thrive Global, started with one recognition: that she had not lacked discipline or intelligence or capability. She had simply stopped holding the standard that she had for her own life. And the decision to rebuild with clarity, without apologizing for anything, it changed everything for her. Her story is not a cautionary tale. It is one of the most powerful examples of a woman who saw the drift, named it, came back. Even more powerfully, I would say. And I share it with you because I want you to see yourself in it, not in the collapse, but in that pattern, the slow adjustments, the things that quietly moved around, the version of yourself you slowly stopped making time for. You don't have to hit the floor to change course. You just have to decide right now that the standard is worth holding. And I want to be very clear about something before we go any further, okay? This conversation is not about becoming rigid. It is not about cutting people off, becoming demanding, or holding others to impossible standards. It is about this. When your standards for yourself are clear, you stop negotiating energy. So here's what I mean, okay? You violate your own standard. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you accept something that was not acceptable, and you show up in a way that does not reflect who you really are, you create an internal negotiation. Your brain is tracking the discrepancy between what you believe and what you are doing. That tracking, it costs cognitive energy. It creates low-grade dissonance. It is, in neurological terms, friction, and friction compounds. So here's what that friction is costing high-achieving women specifically. It is costing clarity. When you are not living in alignment with your own standards, decision-making becomes more difficult. Not because you are less capable, but because a portion of your cognitive bandwidth is perpetually occupied by unresolved internal conflict. It is costing you confidence. Confidence, real, grounded confidence, not performed confidence that's built through consistent action that aligns with your values. Every time you act in contradiction to your own standards, you send your nervous system a quiet message that you cannot trust yourself. Over time, that message is going to accumulate, and it is costing you presence. It's costing you so much internally. And the women that I work with who have the most difficulty being fully present in meetings, in relationships, in their own lives, are almost always carrying a significant amount of unresolved standard violations. They are not distracted by external things. They are distracted by the internal noise of a life that does not feel theirs fully. It is costing your leadership. And you cannot lead others at the level that you are capable of when you are not leading yourself first. Teams and people are extraordinarily perceptive. They sense when they cannot articulate it. When the person at the front is operating in misalignment, it is noticeable. Your standards, or lack of them, set the invisible tone for everything else beneath you. And it is costing so much. And if you're a mother, a leader, a woman that other women look to, your standards are teaching them something. And every time you enforce one with grace and certainty, you teach the women watching you that it is possible and safe for them to do the same. And every time you abandon one silently, you reinforce the belief that accommodation is the price of belonging. That is the cost. And it happens daily. So in architecture, the foundation determines the height of the building. You cannot build a 40-story structure on a foundation that's designed for a 4-story structure. Okay, so the higher you want to go, the more solid and expansive the foundation must be. Your standards are your foundation. The life you are building, the leadership, your relationships, your impact, your legacy can only reach as high as the foundation beneath it will support. So when you lower your standards, you are not making the building smaller, you are making it structurally unstable. It may look tall from the outside, but it is working harder than it should to even just hold itself up. Raising your standards is not about demanding more from the world. It is about building a foundation that is actually strong enough for the life that you are trying to create. And every standard you hold is a contract with yourself. And when you reinforce it, you build that self-trust, the deep internal knowing that your word to yourself actually means something. And when you violate it, when you accept what you said you would not, you tolerate when you tolerate what you said was not acceptable, you break that contract. So you are always watching. Your subconscious is always paying attention. You always know your nervous system records every promise that you make to yourself, and every time you keep it or you break it. And self-trust is not built from dramatic gestures. It is built from the accumulation of hundreds of small moments where you honored what you said mattered. Your standards are the most consistent contract that you have. And how you honor them, it determines the relationship that you have with yourself. I want to address the beliefs directly, okay? For a woman like you, it is rarely a lack of knowledge that keeps you from holding your standards. It is the story underneath. So belief 1, having high standards makes me difficult. Standards do not make you difficult. The absence of them makes you a moving target. When you do not have clear standards, the people in your life, in your home, your team, your relationships are forced to guess what is acceptable to you. And when people have to guess, they guess in their own favor. Unclear standards, it's not going to create a good life. It's going to create confusion. And clarity is not difficult. Clarity is a gift. And when you know your standards and you communicate it clearly, you remove the guessing and you make each relationship so much easier. Belief number 2, if I raise my standards, I will be alone. Okay? The people who leave when you raise your standards, they're telling you something important. This is one of the most painful beliefs. Okay? It deserves real acknowledgement. Because for some women, it does have a grain of truth in it. Some relationships, professional and personal, are built on the premise of your accommodation. So they require your lowered standard to function. And raising your standard, it will end some of them. But here is what I know from years of working with high-achieving women. The relationships that leave, the people who leave, when you raise your standards, they were never providing what you thought they were. They were providing proximity, not alignment, comfort, not nourishment. And what arrives when your standards are clear, people and opportunities that are always looking for exactly who you actually are. Belief number 3, I should be more flexible. Holding standards is selfish. Okay, without a foundation is just a collapse. There is a difference between being flexible and having no floor. Flexibility means you can adapt. You can meet people where they are. You can extend grace. No floor means anything goes and the cost is always yours. You are allowed to be generous and have standards. You are allowed to be kind and have limits. You are allowed to love people deeply and still refuse to tolerate behavior that diminishes you. Holding your standard is not selfish. It is the most honest thing that you can do for yourself and for the people in your life. Because a woman operating from her full standard is exponentially most present, more generous, and more alive than a woman operating from a standard that she has quietly abandoned. Belief number 4, I have already tolerated this for so long, it's too late to change it now. You cannot go back and protect the woman you were, okay? And decide right now to protect the woman that you are becoming. The past does not determine the standard. The decision does. And the decision can be made at any moment, including this moment. You do not owe anyone your continued tolerance of what you have already survived. Survival was necessary is a choice. Okay, I want to get more practical with you because abstract understanding without a clear path forward is just inspiration without implementation changes nothing. Okay, so here are how standards actually show up in high achieving women's lives. So in your mornings, you have a standard for how you begin your day. Not because a productivity guide told you to, you now have lived experience that the quality of your morning shapes the quality of your presence. You protect it accordingly. You do not negotiate it away because something else demanded the time. In your relationships, you have a standard for how you are spoken to, how your time is used, what behaviors you normalize in your home and your inner circle. You communicate it clearly, without apology, not as an ultimatum, but as information. This is who I am. This is what I need. This is what I will not accept. Simple. And then you hold it with warmth, with consistency, and zero ambiguity. In your work, okay, you have a standard for the quality of what you produce, how you treat people that you lead, how you are treated by those above you. You know the difference between a productive challenge and a demeaning one. You know the difference between a difficult season and a chronic environment that is costing you more than it is returning. And you make decisions accordingly. In your relationship with yourself, this is the one that is the foundation for all the others, okay? You have a standard for how you speak to yourself, for what you allow your inner voice to say, for how much rest you consider acceptable, how much nourishment, how much stillness. You treat yourself with the same quality of care that you extend to the people that you love the most. This is why. Your standard for yourself sets the floor for every other standard that you hold. Women who speak to themselves with cruelty will eventually accept cruelty from others. Women who chronically deprive themselves will normalize deprivation as a lifestyle. Women who hold themselves to impossible standards of performance will project that same impossibility outward. The work starts here with your standard you have for your own inner life. And I want to paint the picture for you, not of a perfect woman, of a woman who has done this work. She wakes up in the morning and her first moments are hers, not because her life is empty of demands. It's full of them. But she has decided her mornings belong to her. And she has held on to that standard long enough that the people in her life have adapted to it. She enters meetings, and there is something about her presence that is difficult to name, but it is immediately felt. She is not the loudest person in the room. She is the clearest. She says what she means. She means what she says. She does not manage up, she receives treatment that is not acceptable and she addresses it. Not with rage, not with passive acceptance, but with calm, precise language that makes it clear. This is not what I accept. And she holds it. She ends her days having made decisions that she can stand behind. Not perfect decisions. She makes mistakes, she adjusts, she learns, but decisions made from her own standard, her own bar, her own clarity, her own standards. The most important thing about her, she recognizes herself. And this is the transformation, not a dramatic reinvention, a return. Back to the woman who knew what she would and would not accept. Back to the woman who trusted herself. Back to the woman who had a floor and held it. That woman is not gone. She has simply been waiting for you to decide that she is worth protecting again. If this video landed for you at all, if any part of what I have shared today felt like recognition, like something clicking into place, I want you to do one thing. Before you close this video, name one standard that you have quietly moved or abandoned that you are ready to restore. Just one. You do not have to do everything today. Name the one. And if you are ready to go deeper into this work, move from understanding to actually living it, I want to invite you into the Style Empowerment Society. The society is for women exactly like you. It's a community of high achieving, high capacity, privately hungry for a life that matches who they are on the inside. We talk about clarity, we talk about alignment, we talk about standards, presence, and what it actually takes to show up as the woman you know yourself to be. The link is in the description. Come in, and it will be the best decision that you make today. Comment society if this resonated, and tell me what is the one standard that you are ready to restore. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, comment your biggest takeaway, share with a friend who could benefit. And remember, style is more than what you wear. It is how you step into your God-given purpose. I will see you in the next one.